Proudly broadcasting from the Richard Philip Cavallaro studio.
WRHU.
Hempstead.
You've discovered
A cornerstone of the Lawrence Herbert School of Communication.
WRHU.
All thoughts and opinions expressed here on WRHU's Newsline do not reflect the views of Hofstra University, the Board of Trustees, or Radio Hofstra University. All contrasting thoughts or suggestions can be sent to programming at wrhu.org or to room 127 Herbert Hall, 111 Hofstra University, Hempstead, New York, 11549.
Now, Long Island's largest radio news team brings you the Associated Press award-winning program, Newsline.
Coming up on Newsline Wednesday, May 8th, 2024.
Donald Trump's confidential documents case is suspended indefinitely.
A Georgia court will review a decision keeping a prosecutor in Trump's election interference case.
The U.S. has paused arms shipments to Israel, while Israel has opened a vital crossing.
And an exclusive interview with Columbia University's class of 2025 president.
Biden touts Microsoft Center, Sabella pleads guilty to anti-money laundering violation, and Anaheim approves Disneyland revamp. I'm Fatma Moen, and we're talking business later in the broadcast.
In entertainment today, police are investigating a shooting which left a security guard injured at Drake's house. Rumors are rising that Lionel Richie and Luke Bryan are feuding, and Nintendo says a new console is coming. I'm Donovan S., and I'll have more on the stories later in the broadcast.
In sports, the Knicks continue their playoff series, and the Yankees look to continue their dominance over an American League rival. I'm Ryan Resco, and I'll have that and more later in sports.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Pergola.
And I'm Cameron Bowden. We begin tonight's broadcast in Florida, where a federal judge has indefinitely postponed Donald Trump's criminal trial in the state. Trump is currently facing charges of illegally keeping classified documents after his term in office. The trial was originally scheduled for May 20th, but U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon, who was appointed by Trump in 2020, decided Tuesday that the trial was not ready to proceed. Professor of Political Science Richard Himmelfarb shared some perspectives on this case, in addition to another development in the election interference case out of Georgia.
These cases are complicated. The classified documents case in particular is very complicated by the fact that in order for Trump to defend himself, he has to have access to the classified documents that he is purported to have kept. The fact that now that these decisions are being kicked to after the election basically means that they're not going to be a factor in voters' decisions. Voters are just going to have to make a decision about whether they want Trump free of any type of verdict of innocence or guilt.
The judge said, quote, "A finalization of a trial date at this juncture would be imprudent and inconsistent with the court's duty to fully and fairly consider the various pending pretrial motions. The delay indicates that the presidential candidate will not sit before a court until after the November 5th election."
Another delay for Trump, a Georgia appeals court is reviewing a ruling that allows prosecutor Fani Willis to stay on Trump's election case. This motion may potentially also push back Trump's criminal proceedings until after Election Day in November. Trump and other defendants attempted to take the Fulton County District Attorney off the case due to her romantic relationship with Special Prosecutor Nathan Wade. Here's Professor of Political Science Richard Himmelfarb again with his thoughts on this case and its implications.
In the Georgia case, there's Fani Willis and whether she should continue to serve or as the prosecutor in that case. She had an extramarital affair with a prosecutor in that case. And there was a question about whether her ability to try the case fairly was compromised. Trump is contesting that, so that's now in an appeals court in Georgia.
However, Superior Court Judge Scott McAfee ruled that there was no conflict of interest that should result in Willis's removal. Once the Georgia Appeals Court makes its decision, either party can request the state Supreme Court to reconsider.
The United States government has paused a large shipment of weapons to Israel, signaling the Biden administration's fears of a military offensive into Rafah. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre cited the population density as one of the biggest fears in the case of an offensive.
What I will say is we have been very clear from here about our concerns about major operations. We have been very clear from here about protecting civilians. There are more than 1 million civilians that is in Rafah. We want to make sure that there are no civilian casualties here.
The halt on arms shipments highlights President Biden's pushes for a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas to prevent a massive offensive from occurring.
Now over to the Middle East, the Israeli military has reopened the Kerem Shalom crossing into Gaza, which is closed after Hamas rocket attack that killed 4 Israeli soldiers. The crossing is a vital point of entry for humanitarian aid. However, the Israeli Defense Force is preventing any assistance from entering the city. In the same press conference as before, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says the Biden administration is pressuring the Israeli government to keep all crossings open.
So one of the things that we've been very clear about, that the crossings that have been closed need to reopen. It is unacceptable for them to be closed. You have heard us say over and over again, we need to upsurge the humanitarian aid. This is why the hostage deal is so important. It would lead to a ceasefire, would lead to making sure hostages, including American hostages, come home and get that humanitarian, more humanitarian aid into Gaza.
While the Kerem Shalom crossing has been opened, the Rafah crossing still remains closed after an Israeli incursion seized the entrance yesterday.
As campus protests continue across the country, WRHU's Michael Dent sat down with Columbia University's president of the class of 2025, Rohan Mehta. The two discussed the campus environment and what Mehta had seen firsthand. Mehta recently had an article published in The Guardian to discuss. Let's take a listen.
Demonstrations in support of Palestine are continuing across college campuses. Columbia University has had some of the highest coverage because of the number of protesters and how the administration is handling demonstrations. I'm here with Columbia University's class of 2025 President Rohan Mehta to talk about his experiences so far. Rohan, starting off, I want to get your perspective. What have you seen during these protests, and what have you seen protesters and the NYPD doing as these protests continue?
Yeah, so what do I see during these protests? It's really quite straightforward. It's students, faculty, and affiliates, alumni, et cetera, calling for Columbia to divest from, the Israeli state and also stop investing in weapons manufacturers, et cetera, and also trying to hold the university accountable for the arrests of hundreds of students at this point at Columbia. Of course, that change in protest has come as they've started to arrest students, but that's what really I'm seeing on the ground. And what the NYPD, they've been, largely, I would say, pretty violent in how they've handled the protests. They're quite antagonistic. Now they're actually stationed at Columbia on campus for the next week and a half, basically. And they've been, after they were called in to arrest students on campus.
And as not only a class president, but a peer to those arrested, how have you felt watching detainments and arrests on campus? These are people that you know.
Yeah, it's horrible. I really can't stress that enough. It's so terrifying and anxiety-inducing. I've seen a few of my friends get arrested, and I think just the sight of seeing hundreds of police officers in riot gear who are yelling, who are not really respectful of anyone, show up on your campus, a place where I've spent the last 3 years of my life, and do call home. It's really scary, and it just feels weird to even be in that space again after seeing what the police have done and after seeing my friends get arrested and be treated horribly by the police.
Alumni have shared their sentiments online about how the university is handling student protesters. Class of 2013's Jeremy Bernier took to X to say he was ashamed to be an alum before citing Jewish harassment and an inability for protests to stay peaceful. Meanwhile, my own source, Ali Alnan, who graduated in 2014, told me that he was proud of the student body and he felt that they were unfairly punished. What can alumni do to combat the executive overreach that you wrote about?
I think it's really pressuring alumni association leadership, pressuring board of trustees members, pressuring deans that they have access to. Obviously, different alumni will have different connections, and that means the amount of access they have to Columbia will be vastly different, right? If you're part of a student group during your time at Columbia and that student group is prominent, et cetera, you might have channels there. If you weren't, you obviously don't have those channels. But I think it's about speaking out and reaching out to anyone at this university. And if you know people in the media, talk to them and say, hey, I think this is what's not being covered, et cetera, et cetera. That's how to get involved.
Once again, that was Columbia president of class of 2025 on the campus environment after the protest. Thank you to Michael Dent and Rohan Mehta for that interview.
The second protest in a week broke out on Hofstra's campus today. My co-anchor Cameron Bowden has more on that demonstration.
Today on Hofstra's campus, a third protest arranged by students broke out in Pride Park, resulting in a gathering of around 30 to 40 pro-Palestinian student protesters. The Student Voices for Palestine chapter here at Hofstra shared this protest across their social media platforms. As the protesters marched, chanting pro-Palestinian sentiments, public safety watched over the group to ensure no violence erupted. SVP Events Coordinator Mikey Katzen, a freshman filmmaking major, shared the SVP's goals in this protest.
We're here to demand that Hofstra University discloses all divestments in Israeli companies and also any programs that they have, educational programs with the Israeli apartheid state, the university systems that restrict where their Arab students can go. We're here to make sure Hofstra discloses those investments because we as students, we have no clue where our money is going. Our tuition is going to these bombs, but we don't know how much.
SVP Vice President Giovanni Salsa said he thinks that the demonstrations have made serious progress on campus.
I mean, I think so. I think it's opened up for, some dialogue, conflict aside, the little skirmishes that have happened, verbal. But, I feel like it has generally opened a broader dialogue. It's connected a lot of people, and I've personally seen an influx of people coming in to join our protests, and it's a way for us to unify the campus for what they believe in.
Brooklyn Dotton and Peter Nicolino, our field reporters at the protest, spoke to some other students and faculty about what they thought of the demonstration. Claire Thon, a senior history and political science major, shared her thoughts on the pushback against pro-Palestine protesters.
I honestly think it's just flat out unconstitutional. Like everyone should have the right to have whatever views they want and express it in any way. Like this is completely peaceful. So I don't think there's any reason that other colleges and universities should shut it down. Like they're just shutting down free speech and the right to express themselves, and I think it's wrong what other universities are doing.
Adjunct Professor of Economics Martin Melkonian said the protests on campus have been a necessary avenue for students to speak their perspectives.
It's important to have these protests because there's genocide being undertaken at this very moment. And it's important that students get out there and protest that. We need to stop the bombing and stop the violence going on there. And this is important towards getting us to that goal.
The protest ended around 5 o'clock and no suspensions or arrests have been made. For Newsline, I'm Cameron Bowden, WRHU.
Free Palestine! Newsline. Breaking news.
Just published by the Associated Press, Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene just triggered a long-shot attempt to oust Speaker Mike Johnson from his position as Speaker of the House. Greene stood on the House floor and read out a list of transgressions that Mike Johnson committed in his leadership role.
Now, coming up after a Newsline business report with Fatima Moen, an NYC public school chancellor testifies in Congress, police identify the teen shot in Soho, and a Holocaust Remembrance Day ceremony here at Hofstra. But first, your Newsline traffic and weather update with Dorcas Sumaru. WRHU News Time is 5:43.
Newsline. Up to the minute local traffic.
For your local traffic report, starting off with the Hempstead Turnpike, we are seeing some congestion near the intersection with Northern State Parkway. Expect some delays in this area, so make sure to plan accordingly. Moving over to the parkways, we have some slowdowns on the Northern State Parkway near exit 31 Glen Cove Road. The Southern Parkway is also experiencing some traffic near exit 18 Eagle Avenue. For your Long Island Railroad traffic update today, the LIRR is running smoothly with no reported delays or service disruptions on any of its line. Remember to check the MTA website for real-time updates on train schedules and any potential service changes throughout the day. Up in the sky, let's start with JFK Airport. We are currently experiencing general arrival and departure delays of 15 minutes or less, which is considered normal conditions for this time of the day. Moving on to LaGuardia Airport, travelers can expect similar conditions with general arrival and departure delays also at 15 minutes or less. It looks like things are running smoothly. Currently, the weather is nice outside our studio and we have clear skies with a temperature of 79 degrees. Later tonight, we can expect some clouds to roll in with a temperature of 69 degrees. Tomorrow, we will see mostly sunny skies with a high of 71 degrees, perfect weather for outdoor activities. With your Newsline traffic update, I am Daka Sumaru, and I'll be back with another update coming up later in the broadcast.
Newsline Business News.
Seems only fitting we begin a business report talking about politicians, as President Joe Biden is set to visit Racine, Wisconsin, where he'll highlight Microsoft's decision to build a $3.5 billion data center. The center is expected to create 2,000 jobs. Meanwhile, Biden's re-election campaign is launching a $14 million advertising blitz targeting Black, Latino, and Asian American voters. The campaign aims to capitalize on its fundraising advantage and is investing heavily in minority media. Biden's team is also expanding its outreach efforts with targeted interviews and coalition groups. Unfortunately, not all men are clean with their green, as former top casino executive Scott Sabella pleaded guilty to violating federal anti-money laundering rules. Sabella allowed an illegal bookmaker to gamble millions at the MGM Grand. He faces up to 5 years in prison. MGM Grand and Cosmopolitan settled a related probe, agreeing to pay $7.5 million. Sabella's attorneys seek probation and submitted supportive letters, including one from Clark County Sheriff Kevin McMahill. The bookmaker, Wayne Nix, awaits sentencing after pleading guilty to operating an illegal gambling business. Nevada regulators are also considering action against him. But if we travel across the country real quick, things will thankfully be looking better with Disneyland set for a major transformation. The Anaheim City Council unanimously approved plans to revamp the theme park. The project involves moving parking to a multi-story structure and redeveloping a massive lot for entertainment and rides. Although the physical footprint remains unchanged, Disney aims to create immersive experiences like Arendelle from Frozen and Zootopia. The nearly $2 billion investment over the next decade will also fund street improvements and affordable housing. This marks Disney's first major change to its California parks since the 1990s. That was the latest in business. I'm Fatma Moen, WRHU.
WRHU News Time is 5:47 p.m. Thank you, Dorcas Umaro and Fatima Moen, for those reports. New York City Schools Chancellor David Banks was in Washington to testify about anti-Semitism in K-12 schools. He labels it as a significant problem that must be eliminated. In an interview with CBS New York, he expressed readiness for a congressional hearing where he will outline both successes and failures in tackling hate within NYC schools. During the congressional hearing, he said that there's too much focus on the identification and not correcting the issue.
This convening for too many people across America in education feels like the ultimate gotcha moment. It doesn't sound like people who are actually trying to solve for something that I believe we should be doing everything we can to solve for.
Banks highlighted the ongoing issue of staff bias and stressed the importance of maintaining neutrality in the classroom. Banks also addressed student reactions to the Israel-Hamas conflict, including a protest at Hillcrest High School, emphasizing the role of education in resolving such conflicts.
In Soho, police have identified the victim of a fatal shooting as 16-year-old Maki Brown from East Flatbush. According to NYPD, Brown was shot in the head and leg during a post-school dispute between two student groups and later died in the hospital. The incident reportedly escalated from an ongoing fight among girls from a nearby school who had called for backup.
Today is Holocaust Remembrance Day, and Hofstra Hillel hosted a ceremony commemorating the lives lost. WRHU's Antonio Schoenhard has more for us about this event.
Sioma Lehner, 10, Venitza. Bazia Roisman, 4, Mogilev Podolsky.
Currently sitting in front of Hofstra Hall, where the memorial reading of names of those who died during the Holocaust, the martyrs of the Holocaust, has just started. More than 6 million names will be read today. A couple hundred are currently already done, but there are still plenty to go, and as there are plenty to go, there are still plenty of people who are beginning to arrive here at the memorial, and this is all happening because today is in fact Holocaust Remembrance Day.
So our annual name reading is often said to be, for students, one of the most important things and powerful things they do in their 4 years here at Hofstra. it's an opportunity for people, whether they have a personal connection or not, to really reflect. If they want to read names, if they want to connect to history and the tragedy and the horrors of the Holocaust in some way, it's our job as staff members and as Hofstra Hillel to really provide that for them.
It's important to remember the loss of the people who died during the Holocaust, as well as educating those who may not be as well educated on what did happen during the Holocaust. Specifically, this event shows the amount of children that died and what age and where they died, which I believe is really important to honor.
Unfortunately, as we've moved further and further away from World War II and from the Holocaust, we realize that people don't know their history. And of course, as we're always told, that those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. But this is a central event in our world that has shaped so much of what is going on today. And when people don't know basic information, it's one of those things that unfortunately doesn't bode well for the future.
It's pretty heartbreaking to know that people who could have been my family members or friends, family, got killed tragically during the Holocaust just because they were Jewish. So it's important to know and remember the tragedies that happened and to make sure that they never happen again.
That was Executive Director and University Chaplain of Hofstra Hillel, Rabbi Dave Siegel, and Hofstra Hillel President Lily Siegel. Reporting for Newsline in front of Hofstra Hall at the Holocaust Remembrance Day Name Reading Memorial, I'm Antonio Schoenhardt, WRHU.
Shmaja Friedman, 6, Auschwitz. Zygmunt Leichter, 8, Belzec.
Once again, that was Antonio Schoenhardt covering Hofstra's ceremony on Holocaust Remembrance Day. Thank you to Antonio for that report. Coming up, your Newsline Entertainment Report with Donovan Ellis. But first, your Newsline Traffic Update with Dorcas Umaru. WRHU News Time is 5:52.
Newsline. Up to the minute local traffic.
In Meadowbrook State Parkway, we have some slowdowns near M3 Joan Beach. Be sure to give yourself some extra time on your commute today and stay safe out there on the roads. Moving over to the rails, currently the LIRR is operating on or close to schedule on all lines. However, it's always a good idea to check the MTA website or app for real-time updates before heading to the station. Heading into the skies, let's talk about Newark Airport. We are seeing high volume traffic of an average of 30 minutes affecting arriving and departing flights. To see if you may be affected, select your departure airport and check delays by destination. As we move into Friday, we can expect a chance of showers with a high of 56 degrees, so don't forget to grab an umbrella before heading out. Looking ahead to the weekend, Saturday will be partly cloudy with a high of 62 degrees, great for any weekend plans you may have. Sunday will see more clouds with a slight chance of showers moving in, so be sure to stay warm and have a wonderful weekend. With your Newsline traffic and weather update, I'm Dr. Sumaru, WRHU.
Newsline. Entertainment.
Police are investigating the shooting near Drake's house, which left a security guard injured. The incident took place on yesterday's morning. Authorities have confirmed whether Drake was in his home when the shooting took place, but his team is working with them. Toronto Police Inspector Paul Krosky says a video recording of the shooting has been recorded and the guard has been hospitalized. As of now, it's unclear whether the shooting is related to Drake's ongoing conflict with Kendrick Lamar. In other news, the hit reality show American Idol is losing Katy Perry, one of the core judges. She announced that at the end of the season, she will be leaving the show to pursue other opportunities. The other two judges, Lionel Richie and Luke Bryan, are staying with the show. However, some minor rumors have started that the two dislike each other. Well, I'm happy to report that those rumors are false. Luke Bryan appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live to set the record straight, starting by sarcastically commenting on Lionel Richie, but ending by saying, quote, Lionel's he's like an apple pie, you know? He's like the most wholesome human. So me and Lionel are good. Finally, the Nintendo family is welcoming a new addition. Nintendo's president, Shuntaro Furukawa, took to X to announce that the Nintendo Switch 2 is real and is coming soon. While Furukawa did not offer the actual name for the console, he did say that the full reveal for the console will be released during the fiscal year ending in March 31st, 2025. The company also announced that their Nintendo Direct will occur the year instead of the annual E-Free Game Conference. Though he confirmed the console will not be announced at the presentation, we can't see what this console is going to look like. For your Newsline Entertainment Report, I'm Donovan Ellis, WRHU.
WRHU News Time is 5:55. Thank you, Dorcas Umaro and Donovan Ellis, for those reports. The United States is gearing up for a major boost in domestic chip manufacturing over the next decade. According to a report by Semiconductor Industry Association, America will see the largest global increase in semiconductor production capacity by 2032. This growth is in thanks to the Bipartisan CHIPS Act. The act offers grants and incentives for companies to build new chip factories and research centers within the country. The goal is to reduce reliance on foreign suppliers and regain leadership in this critical technology sector after years of competition from Asia.
A U.S. soldier has been detained in Russia after being charged with theft. The soldier Gordon Black was detained in the far eastern city of Vladivostok earlier this month for allegedly committing theft, which caused significant damage. Black was apparently visiting Vladivostok to meet with a woman he met in South Korea. The woman accused him of stealing from her, and he was then arrested in his hotel room. According to the Pentagon, Black did not have authorization to enter Russia.
Coming up, your Newsline Sports Break with Ryan Resko. WRHU News Time is 5:56.
From the Philip Cavallero Sports Desk, this is your Newsline Sports Update.
The Knicks are at the Garden today as they look to take a 2-0 series lead over the Pacers. Star point guard Jalen Brunson has been stellar so far this playoffs, averaging a league-leading 36 points a game. The Knicks will be without defensive anchor Mitchell Robinson as he has an ankle injury. Tip-offs at 8. The Yankees play the second game of a 3-game set against the Houston Astros today. The Yanks are undefeated against the Astros this season with a 5-0 record. First pitch, 7:05. Mets Cards has been rained out today. The Amazings were supposed to complete their 3-game set against the Redbirds in St. Louis. The game will be made up on August 5th at 4:15 at Busch Stadium. In soccer, the reigning NWSL champ Gotham has 1 win, 2 draws, and 2 losses and play the Houston Dash. The Dash have given up 14 goals already this season, while Gotham has given up just 5. Kickoff 8. The PGA Tour picks back up tomorrow with the Myrtle Beach Classic. This event is the first ever PGA Tour event in Myrtle Beach history, and is the first major golf tournament to be held in the golf capital of the world in the past 24 years. Round 1 tee times begin at 6:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. With your Newsline Sports Update, I'm Ryan Resko for WRHU.
That will do it for tonight's edition of Newsline. Many thanks to the entire WRHU News team. Engineering our show this evening was Jason Spiller and Alondra Nolasco Rojas.
Thank you for tuning in to Newsline, only here on your 4-time Marconi Award-winning radio station, 88.7 FM Radio Hofstra University.
Access real-time local Long Island, New York, and global news, along with content from WRHU Talent, Monday through Thursday, 5:30 to 6.
And tune back in from 7 to 9 Monday through Friday morning for our talk show, where we discuss Long Island life, national news, and international issues from the minds and mouths of Hofstra students on the morning wake-up call.
Lastly, check us out on social media at WRHU News for behind-the-scenes content.
For Newsline, I'm Joe Pergola.
And I'm Cameron Bowden.
Thank you for listening.
And have a great night.